I just decided to come on and do a live real quick because I want to talk about a few things. I'm glad that 2025 is over. I don't know about you guys, but I felt like it was exciting, but there was a lot going on in 2025. I'm kind of glad to be out of 2025. I'm so happy for 2026. But I just came out here. I started doing just a video, but then I said, no, I'm gonna just go live for a few minutes today, just to kind of drop some diamonds. And when you drop diamonds, you know they have to be polished. So I'm just gonna be on here for a minute, just talking about some things that'll bring out the worst in people. So, um, 2025 December, who was a hard year. Just from matter of fact, from the beginning of 2025 to December of 2025, I seen the worst in a lot of people, and I'm sure some of you guys can relate to when you see the worst come out in people. And my worst was death in the family twice, and so you think like I had made a video earlier and I was telling people like, everybody knows that we're gonna leave this world. And it seems to be more common now than it used to be because years ago it used to be a long time in between deaths and families. But now it seems like it's coming a little bit more closer as the years have gone by. And so when you tell people like, when you know that there's gonna be death, or even it's time to start pre-planning. Because when you don't pre-plan, that means you need to have the will together. A lot of people don't like to hear that. They don't, some people just I found that they feel like I don't need nobody planning my death. Some people feel like they just gonna live forever, and that's just not the case. We never know what's gonna happen. And most of the time when people die in families, they do not have a will, or they don't have stuff together. And then you always have that one person, sometimes, most of the time, let me say, that people can depend on. Hey everybody, hey Miss Jazzy. So yeah, you have that one dependable person, but that person has been drained or beat down so bad in a family when they're taking care of everything for that person. And normally the crazy part is the person that does the most end up with less or nothing at all. And that's the sad part about funerals and deaths. So, and I'm always saying, make sure you guys have a will. Make sure you have two signatures on that will, as well as, your two signatures for your witness, and then you sign it, and then you have to get it notarized. And make sure you're very, very, very detailed with the wills. Like, you can even write this out on your own on a piece of paper, as long as you get those two signatures, your signature and the notary signature, two signatures. Because if you don't have those two signatures, and you leave your loved ones behind, then with the one signature, they will not acknowledge it. Even if you signed it, if you said, yes, I want so and so to have such and such, they will not do it. I'm telling you from experience, because I have dealt with a lot of people. I like to do a lot of paperwork and stuff and research, and I help a lot of people, not only in my family, just close people that have grew up in community with me when I was small. They'll call me and say, can you look at this paperwork for me? You know how it goes. And so, in doing this lately for quite a bit of people, um, like I said, I had this one case with this one person that he wasn't like, I'm not really sure, because you guys know back in the days it was kind of like a lot of secrets. So he wasn't like the supposed to be the biological child. And I'll just leave a question mark on that one because it's none of my business. But nevertheless, he was the only child in the home, and both of the adults in the home wanted him to have everything when they passed away. So yes, the okay, so the father wrote the will, and the will he wrote left him everything, but he only had one signature on this will. He only had his signature and one witness and the notary, and they still will not give him the father's belongings. They will not. So, and then after that, we had this one sibling that came, one child that came up, like an outside child, that never had been claimed or anything, that came up and said, hey, I want part of this inheritance. Matter of fact, she wanted it so bad she went and filed paperwork ahead of him, to become the person over the like the administrator over the estate. And so, even though he had this will, even though it was has the signatures on it, it just didn't have the second signature. And without that, he could not claim, whatever was left to him. Now, in all of this, the wife was still living, and she was still living, and she even went to court with him and said, hey, me and my husband said that, and this was a husband and wife of like maybe like 50 something years, that we wanted him to have everything that we have when we pass away. And even her being a wife, they still would not acknowledge that this could be done. So, of course, they went through the whole hoops about doing blood tests. And it was not just this one child. It was, matter of fact, it was like 3 or 4 kids came out the woodwork saying that they were his children, and they wanted part of this money. So, um, they've been in a battle with this for years. So they did a couple of blood tests, and some of them, one child bowed out and said no, they didn't want to go through with it. The other son said that, it came back that he wasn't the son. And then this daughter came back, and from my understanding, it seems like she's working with probably even some crooked lawyers to try to get this blood test to say that she is a biological child. That has still not happened. Matter of fact, this particular case has been held up in the courts now for over maybe 8 years or more. So I'm saying all of this to say again, please get your affairs in order when you are, do your pre-planning of how you want everything to be for your funeral, just in case. Like, we always have emergency funds or um emergency thing, something to put in emergency thing to put in place for when something happens. You need to do the same thing when it comes to your funeral, or how you want things to be done, because lots of times the family is in a disarray. It's always going to be a disarray. If we know this ahead of time, that the family is going to be in a disarray, that is, death never brings about good feelings. It seems like every time that there's death, that's when the worst come out in people. They just seem to want to, now it's everything belongs to this one particular child, or the siblings got to fight over who supposed to get what, when it all could have been resolved with just two signatures, a notary, two witnesses, a notary, and your signature. That could resolve a lot of heartache that people go through with these funerals. And I mean, as a matter of fact, the funeral I just went to was a cousin of mine, and when I went to her funeral, the sad part is, even at the funeral, the funerals have become really sad. Matter of fact, I don't even know if we really want to call them a funeral anymore, because they last only 30 minutes tops, and you're in and you're out with the funerals nowadays. And the sad part was, when we went, the kids, they were being told by family members that, hey, your mother didn't leave you guys anything. Like, she had nothing to leave you guys, which, they didn't know that I was the person that she actually confided in a lot and gave a lot of paperwork to and stuff. So they didn't know these things. So I'm listening, and I never said anything, because I know, emotions are high around this time. So I just kind of listen and see what people gonna do. Cause I'm gonna tell y'all something. It seems like too, as and especially as let me just say males especially, but you guys know it's always it's a parallel road. It runs two ways, but mostly more so with the males. And the sad part is, when a male transitions, the sad part is, they'll put their hands in not say a long time, maybe a person that they've been knowing for a long time, or first or second wife. It seems like it always, they'll put their life in the hands of a stranger, somebody they never knew. And why they do this, I cannot understand it. So when that happens, and just say they go end up in the hospital during this time. And when you end up in the hospital during this time, unfortunately, if you get to the point that you cannot speak, and the last resort is you passing away, that leaves your kids, your biological kids, your mother, your sisters, or whoever, that leaves them in a position, because this person has every right over you. And most of the time, they have this attitude, well, I didn't really know him, so it didn't mean much to me. And basically, I just want whatever he had left to give or the money or whatever, and I'm out. And it's like you have left the kids in a disarray, your mother's in a disarray, your children are in a disarray because now they have nothing other than them having to go to court and fight in court and pray that the judge will rule in their favor to get anything that's of value to be left to them. Even the Bible says, to leave your children an inheritance. It doesn't matter what they do with it. You're just doing according to what the scripture says. Leave your children an inheritance. So when we don't do that and we leave behind all this confusion, I don't know if it's just a hurt. And I can understand some people say, well, my family didn't do nothing for me and I don't want to leave anything. I mean, that's just not the way to really be. Even if you say that's fine, if that's what you want to do, and you say I'm gonna leave it to charity, but at least put it in writing, and that way there would be no argument about um the argument over what you wanted or how you thought it should have been, because that's what the case has been lately. A lot of people have it's torn families apart emotionally, drained them. It's mentally drained them when it could be resolved with just a matter of a couple signatures, your signature, and a notary. It's not that hard. And that way people won't have to go through that. And the sad part is I do resale. So for years I have been in a lot of homes. Doesn't matter the race, background, or gender or whatever. I've seen it all. And the sad part is um I've watched a lot of families. I have watched a for years a ton of families from all backgrounds, all religions, all kind of relations. And I've sat there and witnessed it, how the family, some of them do leave a will, and there are a lot of people that are unhappy about the will and the way that it's left. And then you have a great deal of them that don't leave the will, and now you got brothers and sisters at each other's throats. They actually are hating each other, hating each other. And you would think, like, I know as a parent that should make any parent or anybody sad to know that you have left your loved ones back here in um such a state, that they gotta hate each other over materialistic stuff that really doesn't even matter. But it could just be resolved with a simple signature, and the signatures and the two witnesses. And it's really, really sad. Like most of the time when I go to a funeral, whatever I do, I always tell people, don't acknowledge me. And when I do good for people, I always say, don't acknowledge me. You don't have to tell people I did anything. I'll just be in the background. I'm not looking for no praise. I'm not, let me testify to the character of that person. I'll just get up and I'll say whatever. And even if you don't want me to speak, that's fine too. Because at the end of the day, you know the type of relationship you have with that person. Never mind what anybody else think about it. And I would say I want to see the good. That I don't want to remember a person for anything bad, or I don't want to remember the situation, the circumstance with people, you know, being nasty and ugly to each other, all because of materialistic stuff that eventually is gonna get you're gonna have to leave it behind too. And I always tell people I've never seen a U-Haul in front of a hearse or behind one. So why are we getting this um emotional and taken out of character when it could be simply resolved by just doing, like I said, the signatures? People should be considerate of that, considerate of others and their feelings. Because I mean, you're gonna be accountable for that too. If you think it's something, I don't know who would get any enjoyment out of leaving chaos behind. Um, or saying I wanted somebody to fight on me when I'm gone. That's not the way to do it. Um, why not go in peace and not leave chaos behind? And I've seen a lot of hurt people, and it's really hurt a lot of people just going through that. Yep, it's so sad, Jazzy. It's so sad that it happens all the time. And like I said, even with my cousin kids, like they were literally at this funeral telling these kids. I mean, they're adults, but they're kids to me. And they were literally telling them, like, yeah, your mother left you nothing. But now I've seen this paperwork and I know otherwise, and I still haven't said anything yet because it's been about a week now. And I still haven't said anything yet to everybody like that. I know the truth. And I'm actually witnessing these people saying that they've ordered death certificates because the another thing that's surprising is it's not surprising because you don't put nothing past any human being. But what really got me and took me by surprise was the fact that it was so many people that had insurance policies. Now they had insurance policies, but they didn't want to pay for the funeral. They just wanted to collect on the policy. They didn't want to contribute to the funeral whatsoever. So everybody in the family had to come up with money to do the burial. And now that it's over, I've heard them say, "Yeah, I ordered like six death certificates, but I'm waiting on them to come in." And I'm like, "Well, if you didn't have insurance policies, where did what do you need the death certificate for?" But, people have and I always say, "You know what? You might do it to somebody, but remember everybody gonna have a chance. Not everybody get a turn." So, and that's why I had to remind them, like, everybody's gonna get a turn. Y'all cashing in on insurance policies, but not contributing to the funeral or even giving the kids anything is so sad. And so, yeah, it's really, really sad. Now, I did see one guy that was saying, and it made sense what he was saying. I was watching another video or something, and I saw the guy, and he was talking about generational wealth is built in every other culture. They do get the insurance policies, but it's the person that says, "Okay, we're going to build generational wealth." And to do that, they will get a insurance policy. Like it'll be like, maybe let's just say 10 people, and everybody get a huge policy, and they contribute to that policy and keep it paid. So when that person does pass away, it leaves the wealth in the family. That makes it where they can continue to grow in the world, and then they will continue to build. And that makes sense because now that this person who is about, just say for me, like if it was me, for instance, and I decided I was going to leave $1 million policy to my kids, then that would further their growth. But I've made that decision, I've made that peace with it. And so me, and if I say my kids and 10 people, then that's fine, because that does build wealth in not only with my kids, but it keep it in our communities. And that way we can grow even as a community. But people don't think like that. That's the best way to do it. If you can't afford the policy, then it needs to be at least um you know 2 or 3 people in on it to make sure, and as long as the person is okay with it, then that's a smart way to do it. That's smart thinking. And matter of fact, it's been happening for years, but a lot of people don't know that. That's the way the wealth has been transferring, is through when they do these large insurance policies for their kids, and then they have like 10 people that contribute on that policy. So when the person does die, the funeral is taken care of, and the wealth still stays in that family, which it makes it smart. And even if the family wasn't wealthy before, they will be wealthy now, so they can make better choices, do more things, and continue to leave legacy within the family. And that's just a smart way to do it. But I thought today I would get on here and share that and kind of remind people that um please pre-plan stuff. We all got to take that transition. So pre-plan so that you won't have people back here stressed out, upset, hating each other over something that can just be simply be resolved with a couple signatures and a notary. Just that is so, so important. And then also make sure you let them know, like, okay, if it's something you don't like, please let them know, because I've even seen people get upset about what somebody's gonna have on in a casket. Just be as detailed and as specific as possible, so nobody cannot try to think of everything. And when you're pre-planning for this, so that there won't be no questions, no mistakes, no upset. They can go to this funeral and they can leave, and everybody already knows where things stand, and they don't have to sit around and guess or come up with all these rumors. I heard so many rumors that it was ridiculous about the person, to the point that it was like, "Oh, I know who's on the insurance policy." And it was like, nobody knows that. It takes 7 to 10 days after this transition for them to even, say who's the person over the policy. And that shouldn't matter, because I mean, take your time. And I know grief bring about, craziness, and people say crazy things when they're hurt and mourning. But at the end of the day, we have to realize we still have to get to business. You have to get down to business. We can't stay stuck in this state of mind forever. So at the end of the day, yes, everybody's gonna leave this world. And yes, you need to have a plan in place. That's just being doing what's right. Have a plan in place. Already discuss this with your kids. I mean, and if you feel like people around you that are not trustworthy, or you don't know what's gonna happen, because yes, people do change. I do understand that. Then please get with an attorney and let that attorney draft this up. So once this all take place, that okay, it is, you can let them know, look, I've already had my stuff pre-planned. I'm not gonna go into details about it, but everything is already written down and pre-planned. That way you ain't gotta worry about them arguing or going back and forth. They don't know the details of it, but the lawyer does, which matters. And like I said, if it's somebody that you can trust, then please get them, tell them what you want done and what they should be doing when something happens. Like, okay, and I tell my kids all day, if I'm going to the hospital, this is what needs to be going on when I go to the hospital. There should be no arguing. There should be no worrying about what somebody on the outside say. This is what I taught you. This is what you need to do if something happens to me. And everybody needs to have that in place. I mean, and have a book or something with write it down, even like a journal or a diary. Write it down, um real specific, real detailed, what exactly you want as your wishes when something if something happens. Do a just in case journal, that something happens to me, then here's what you need to know. And if you don't want to be all specific about who gets what, then you just leave that with a lawyer and you just put in that journal, look, this is an emergency journal just in case something, the worst case scenario happens. And in here, it tells you what you need to do. If it says you need to call a lawyer, the lawyer has all the details, then that's what you need to do. If it doesn't have that and has specifics in it, and you decide I want to write out my own will and don't want to pay somebody, I'm gonna get them two signatures. I'm gonna get my witness, and I'm gonna get the notary to notarize it. Then make sure you have it in a safe place, in a book, a journal, or something, and make sure that one person knows where it is. Even if you keep it on the lock and key or in a safe, they know exactly where it is, just in case something happens. Yes, exactly. Yes. And that's the most important thing. Please, just like you said, record your wishes, and then it won't be the arguing and stuff. I mean, I have had to go through, yes, exactly. I've had to go through this with several families now, and I have a lot of friends that are judges, and I have a lot of friends that are lawyers. I have to keep them around, and so and when it gets into the technicalities of it, I can call them up. I have them on speed dial, y'all. I have to call them up and say, hey, I got a person here and this is the story. Can you help? And then, of course, they'll say, yes, I can take on the case. Just give them my number. And that's what I do, because I believe in helping people. I genuinely believe in supporting people, and you got to have some type of moral standards. And I find myself in a situation around a lot of people. Like I said, that's what I do, and I love reselling. So I'm always running into these type of situations. So I'm always telling people like, um, yeah, they'll ask me, and sometimes it's total strangers, and they'll say, well, I'm one young child I had, she was 19 years old, the only child, and she had no clue what to do. Her mother passed away unexpectedly, and when I tell you she was in a whirlwind and had no idea what to do, she was crying, she was scared. She was actually in college, and she was in college locally, but she was living in the dorms, and her mother was at the house, and of course she came home. Periodically she would come home, but the mom had taken sick and was in the hospital, ended up passing away unexpectedly, and so now she was left in a wreck. She didn't know what to do, which direction. She said the mother didn't give her any direction of what she should be doing. She had no idea. She said, I don't know what to do. I've never had to go through this before. Um, they had a house. The mom had a house. Of course, she had the house fully furnished. She had cars. She had all kinds of things, but she never told her where her important paperwork was, no insurance policies. She didn't leave her any instructions. So can you imagine the weight that was on her as a child? Your mom just passed away. You're in college. You're only child. You're by yourself. And you have nobody to reach out and talk to or figure out what to do. So just so happened the person that she had called to do no somebody referred another person that I knew that do sales, referred them to her, and when they referred them to her, she called me and she was like, "Can you please come over and talk to her?" And I did, and it's so sweet because she still tells the stories to everybody to this day, like, yes, she was a lifesaver. And I'm like, no, I just thought, that's what I would want somebody to do for me if it happened to my kids. But I know better because I've been through it and I see it so much that I needed to have something in place. So yes, the child was there, and so she was explaining to me, like, and I was telling her different things that she needed to do, little steps, and then I say to build up to the big steps because there were people coming in trying to rip this child off from her home. Like they was like, "Oh, we'll give you such and such amount of money," and her not knowing any better, she was like, "Well, I guess okay." And I'm like, "No, you can't do it like that. You have to get a lawyer, and you have to get a real estate agent. You can't just let somebody tell you they're gonna give you something and they may never pay you for the home and then took your whole home. You can't do that." So of course I had to teach her what she needed to do in that situation. I got her hooked up with a lawyer and they helped her out. And I explained to them, like, just be good to her because you don't know. And your kids can be in that situation. Anybody can be in that situation. So they took her case and they were able to get the house sold for her because she did want to sell the house. And we were able to get all the contents cleaned out of the house and get that sold for her, make sure she had some money to continue in college, and for her future, for when she finished college, because at that point you're in college, you eventually she's going to graduate, and then she's going to where would she go, what would she do? So we had to help her with all that, although she some people have families, but just because you have family doesn't mean that you're close to that family. Or people can have family, but family doesn't always do the right things in certain situations. So yes, your kids are around them and everything, and people are good to you as long as you're in their face. But once that person is behind their back or gone, people don't think the same way. If we have to be real, we have got in a society where family is not family anymore. It's not the same. Whereas, you could call somebody and they'll come over or they'll be willing to sit. And yes, they may come for a day and they may be okay with your kids for that day because they know you passed away. But once the day is over with, they don't they don't stay around. Most of the time they don't stay around. They don't check on them. They don't ask them how they doing. So now they're left in a situation all alone. So you have to consider those facts too when you are when things are happening in your life. So that's why it's very good to have an emergency plan just in case something happens. The worst case scenario happens to me, because a lot of people don't say like to say death, and that's okay because the Bible say, oh death, where is thy sting?" So we have to take the sting out of it and know that we serve a living God. So yes, you're living forever. You're going to transition into your spiritual body, but in the meantime, we need to have something for this flesh body, because eventually when we leave, things have to be taken care of, and you do have to do things decently and in order. And in order to do those things decent in order, that means consider consider who is going to hurt the most, or what can happen if you don't have some type of plan in place. Because even though we all see things happen all the time, and sometimes we'll say it will never be me, or oh, I could never do that. But then, once you see it on the news or something, you let it pass right over, go right over your head. And then a lot of times we have people that say, "Oh, I got time. Oh, I got time." And time of, that time when that card is pulled, and you never know when, because nobody knows when you're gonna die unless somebody say, okay, well, a lot of times the doctor can say, "Oh, you're gonna be here for another 2 years," but you might live longer or you may not. So you can't never predict what day it's going to happen, but what you can do is have something in place just in case, and have that person that knows what to do when this does happen. So consider that, even especially if you got kids, please consider that. Consider that even with your family, siblings, or your parents, everybody, because I'm telling you, we all have seen it, we all have experienced it. Grief can be something else, and it definitely brings out the worst in people. So, that's something that I just wanted to get out, just wanted to talk about a little bit today. And I mean, it's and we need more people talking about it, because a lot of us don't like to face it. And like I said, I've seen so many times. Matter of fact, I had another friend that um her parents were elderly and they passed away. The dad passed away first, and then the mom passed away. But the sad part is this family was extremely, extremely close. Like, I mean, extremely close. They did everything together, everything. And even when her parents passed away, they had lived in like a I think you call them how you said the brownstones, I think is what you call them, where they have the houses. You know, you can live below and then have someone live above you. Um, and it was up north. So yeah, so they was really, really close and did everything together for years and years and years. But when the parents passed away, the the shock came, and it split the family. It split them. They were arguing, and everybody had all this stuff to say, and I don't know if they had been holding it in for years, but they needed to let it out. But it seems like that the death just does that for people. And so, the mother did live a little longer than the father, so they were able to put some things in place so that they had time to get stuff figured out. So they're still split to this day, but they're doing a little better. They started speaking again because they had got to the point they weren't even speaking. So now they're speaking again, and she still has all the parents' stuff, so that one day when they get to a place that they can actually, I guess, come to some type of agreement, they'll decide how the stuff will be divided up. But see, like I said, that's all that is unnecessary. When you just have a plan in place, you won't have to go through all that. I mean, because it would be in black and white, no matter how anybody feels about it. At the end of the day, you can live with yourself and live with that's what that person wanted, and you just have to accept it. Now, if the person wants to give themselves to a total stranger, because I've seen that situation too, then hey, all is well. Everybody can be at peace. You don't have to get upset. Nobody has to get angry. They may be for a moment, but at least they'll know that that was your last wishes, and that it's not something that somebody just made up and trying to say that that's what you wanted when you really didn't. So, um, consider all those things. Again, like I said, consider those things when that time comes, and make sure you guys pre-plan. Yep. Jazzy, that's great. Yes, yes. That's why I say I have to have a lot of judges and a lot of lawyers as my friends. Yeah, yeah, they will. People will do that. I've seen people go to the death sign and even to taking deeds and signing them in different names and stuff. And I'm gonna tell y'all one more quick story, and I think I'm gonna hop off of here. But I used to work for U-Haul, the corporate office, and I'm gonna tell y'all something. I love, love, love that company, and I'm gonna tell you why I love U-Haul. And I never knew this before I started working for them. And then when you start working for them, when you go through your training, they teach you so much. You get the background on U-Haul. And the father of the company that built the company, he loved he was a Christian and he loved God and stuff. And so that's what he built U-Haul based on off of Christian values. And so and I mean he really built it from like y'all a little wagon, and it built into what it is today. And so it has been through a lot of transition. So when the father got older, um, like to the point of probably like dementia or something I think he started having, um, he was so in love with his company, he didn't want to leave it. He didn't want to give it to the kids. He didn't want to get transferred over to anybody else. And so basically they had to like go in a meeting, I think a board meeting, and kind of like take him off the board so he couldn't be in charge of U-Haul anymore. And I think he was really, really upset about it. But it was okay because, that was what was needed at that moment. But now U-Haul has had their share of sadness in their family. Let me just say that. It's been really, really bad for them. I mean, they've even had to the point of some deaths in their family behind this wealth. And but now it's in one of his son's hands, and he is so nice, y'all. I actually got a chance to talk to him, and I mean he is one of the nicest people you could ever meet. um I briefly talked to him on the phone. Of course, he was coming in to do something for the company. Maybe he's coming in to build another U-Haul here in Atlanta, another center. And so when he does that, they pick locations and he'll fly in and, I guess approve all the stuff. And I mean, like he is so humble, so down to earth. He treats you just like, like anybody else should be treated, really nice. um, I'm that company. I really, really love that company. And even when he does his meetings and everything, he still lives his father wishes out. He still does the meetings and he still gives honor to God in that company. And I mean, he lives by those principles. So that's why that company really is standing so long, because that's one thing they didn't change. And that was their moral backgrounds of what the father built that company based on the values. So that was something really nice. Yes, it is. And another company like that is Chick-fil-A. They're like that. They build theirs off of, well, I don't know what's going on now. But let me just say, when Truett Cathy was living, that was my mother's neighbor. But when he was living, he had his company values and stuff built off of Christian values. And included those principles in everything that he did. And of course, I think when you look at certain situations, if you can see God in it, then you will see it flourishing, and there's nothing but growth. And even in their death, you still see the growth, and it doesn't go under. And I noticed that they still don't open on Sundays, so that makes a difference too. And it's not about the days, because I know about the death of studying spiritual warfare and all the changes in the calendars and the days. I know about all of that. But I'm just saying, basically, them having God as their foundation and their rock is what has held them together all these years and continues to hold them together even in their death, is holding their children together. So when God makes a promise and he says generations and generations and generations, he does exactly what he says, because those promises don't fall to the ground. Just like with David, his promise didn't fall to the ground. It was Solomon that ended up building the temple. So again, that's all I got on here to say, is just leave, pre-plan, 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 please pre-plan for your kids' sake, for your family's sake, just to give everybody peace of mind. I know nobody wants to transition, but you don't know what's on the other side till you get there. And if you read in Revelation to tell you about the streets of gold, I don't think you should be too upset about that. As long as you've done what you're supposed to do, God give you something to look forward to. He said the streets are going to be made of gold. So go ahead, and I can guarantee, if you could contact heaven and you say, "Can you come back here with me?" They'll say, "No, I don't want to be back there." They love it where they are, and they're not dead. They're living, and they're preparing for us to get to where they are. So please, please, just don't leave here without having a plan. And that helps um, calm the storm here back in the earthly realm with your family, with your friends, and your loved ones. So that's all I want to say for today, guys. Happy New Year. Hopefully 2026 will bring us everything we want. I hope everybody prosper. I hope you're more happier than you were last year. I hope you get more done. Jazzy, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a blessed day. Many blessings. I hope that 26 give you everything, health, wealth, and everything that you want. Pray your channel grows. And I pray that you are happier than you've ever been. So that's all, guys. You guys have a great day. Thank you.